Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Sonali ma'am, Sumit sir. I hope you all are doing well.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
I
How are
wel
you?
yeah, I'm good, sir. I welcome you all. This is our sixth session, I assume. Okay. So in today's session, we'll be learning a very strong data analysis tool, which is pivot tables. Now, talking about, let's begin with what is a pivot table. Now, so far in our training sessions, for the last few training sessions, what we were doing is we were looking on the features of Excel, talking about VLOOKUP, how to filter, how to sort the data, but we did not analyze our data. That means if I have a large data set, it is very difficult to find out the insights or to answer the difficult questions or the complex questions from your data. If I begin with what is a pivot table, the ability of pivot table is to turn your complex data into actionable format. Now, what do you mean by actionable format? That means in a summarized format so that it empowers you to answer very complex questions swiftly or with ease or very easily. Now, before I begin the session, I would first like to, I'm assuming you all have the sheets with you. So I'm sharing my screen with you and I'll be sharing the data, what we'll be working on today. So this is the sheet which we'll be working on with today is the beverage data. Correct. I'll just delete this column because you might not have this. Okay. As I said, the pivot table. Let us first conclude what are the key features of pivot table, why it is important to learn this tool, which is with the spreadsheet programs such as Excel or Google Sheets. Let's first conclude the points, the key points or the features. Okay, so the first thing is you get the summarized view of your data. What do you mean by summarized view? Now, if I say beverages, if you have a look on the data, beverages is in the, it's repetitively there in your data. So beverages has a number of rows, but if I want to conclude a result that whatever sale beverage has made, that means that one figure or the total sales done by the category beverage, if you have to look up on, will you use filtering or sorting, or you will apply some sort of formula? Yes, to do that, you will apply some formulas, but if you want to go on for an easy option, you will use pivot tables so that you get a summarized view of your data to perform some kind of or to find the patterns or trends from your data. So the first thing is when you're using a pivot table, you get a summarized view or the aggregated view of your data. That means the summarized view, I can say that your complex data, it turns your complex data into actionable format. So the first very important feature of pivot table is that it turns your complex data into actionable format. After looking at this actionable format, it's very easy for the user to find out the results from the data or to conclude some sort of decisions from the data. Now, the second is charts or building reports. Once you get a summarized view of a data, it becomes very easy to conclude or to end up with some sort of report on your data. That is in the form of charts or in the form of any kind of visualizations. It is very easy to present what decision you have made from your data. The very important and the last one is easy filtering or slicing. Now, suppose I said I get a summarized view. I'm not looking at the sales done by the beverage, but I'm looking at the sales done by some other category. What you will use? You will use a pivot table for that too. That means you will just add your categories to the filter section so that every time you are changing the filter, your view of data is getting changed. So before I begin the session, I would request an active participation from all of you so that we can make the most of this pivot table session. And we will use the chat box for any sort of communications. I'm waiting for a quick yes from all of you so that we can begin the session and you all have the sheets with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah? Okay. You have, Sumit sir, one question. Are you regularly working with the pivot tables or it's very new for you?
I'm not regularly working. It is new for me, ma'am.
Okay, but you have come across pivot tables in Excel too?
Yes, sometimes before this, I was around 2, 3 years back, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So it's going to be a complete new for you.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's start. We'll start with very basic and we'll see some complex features of pivot tables too. So who's there with me right now? I have Sonali ma'am with me, Sumit sir. A quick guess, who's there with me? Physically and mentally both.
Yes, yes,
Can you be live with me, Sumit sir, for next 15-20 minutes?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, perfect. So thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate. Okay. Now, first thing is how to create a pivot table. The first question is how you create a pivot table. You all have a sheet named beverage data. So I would first request all of you to come to that sheet, which is beverage data. You have to come to any filled cell of that sheet and you have to hit Control A. Now, when I hit Control A, Sumit sir, a quick
Yes.
question to you. Is it a range or is it a table?
It is stable, ma'am,
How you come to know that it is a table?
because so many products name are there, and also the category is also there.
With the range, it is not there. Suppose I show you some other sheet, which is a range. For example, I show you this one. Let's see. Now, is it a table or a range?
Yes, this is stable and the beverage is range.
Why? How can you say that? Only looking at the data, you conclude that it is a range?
Yes.
No. When I click on this cell, yeah, I've selected the cell, correct? From a filled cell. Now, can you read the options in the tab which have been given to you? It's file, home, insert, and the last one is power pivot, correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to beverage data now. Now I select any of the selected field. Can you tell me the last option you can see on tab?
Table design.
How do you come to know it's a table? Because you get
Okay.
that extra option in the pane of table design and you will get all the options in the ribbon regarding your table.
Okay.
How you come to know that whether the sheet you're working on is a table or a sheet is with this particular tab?
Okay.
If you get this tab, that means that is a table. If you're not getting, that means that is a range.
Okay.
Not a range, sheet.
Sheet.
Correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you select this cell and go to table design, on the left side, can you see this option table name?
Yes. Beverage data.
Yeah. I just on my zoom it. Okay. Just give me a moment. Just I'll
Okay.
do this. Yeah. Can you see this option, sir?
Yes. Yes.
So I'll
GC.
select this particular cell, go to table design. Can you see that option on the left side, which is this?
Beverage data. Yes.
Correct. So every time when you are making any sheet or any part of a data as a table, the first thing is you will rename that part.
Okay.
The first thing is you will rename so that when you are referring it somewhere else throughout your in your workbook, you know the name of your table.
Okay.
The first thing is if it is a table, you're good to go, but first make it a table if it is not. Then on your sheet, check whether your select data, which is beverage data, is a table or it's not a table.
Okay.
Everyone in the chat box, if it is not a table, you have to make it a table. And do you know how to make it a table? How to make it a table? You select any field cell, press Ctrl A and hit Ctrl T.
Control A and Control
T. T stands
Yes.
for table.
table.
Or
Yes.
yeah, or the easy option is go to insert and you make it a table.
Okay.
You get it till here?
Yes.
Now there are two options. You can create a pivot table
Okay.
from range, and you can create a pivot table from table also.
Yes.
Yes, Sumit sir?
Yes. So this is we will do pivot table from table.
Correct. But you can make it from a range also. Now, what would be the difference between these two? Now, when you will make a pivot table from a range,
Yes.
okay, suppose my data is Parneet and Sumit. The time I created a pivot table, my data is only Parneet and Sumit. But after an hour, I added a new name called Sonali. When you will refresh your pivot table, you will only see Parneet and Sumit because the time you created a pivot table, the data was only Parneet and Sumit.
Okay.
Later on, whatever you're adding to that particular sheet is not going to reflect in your pivot table.
Okay.
But with the second option, no matter what time you're adding a new data, the pivot table will be refreshed. That means those new values will be adjusted in your pivot table too.
Okay. So means whenever we will, so the best option is pivot table from
From
table.
table, correct. It is automated,
Yes.
or you can call it dynamic. That means the time you're entering a new data, you will just have to refresh your pivot table and that data will be included. So now how to make a pivot table? You have to again come to the field cell. Now it's a table, correct?
Yes.
Go to table design. You see your option, this one.
Summarize.
Correct. Summarize with pivot table. One way is you hit this option. Correct? Now, what is he asking for? Select a table or range. So he selected beverage data, correct?
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is the name of the table. Now,
Yes.
choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. Now, where you want to create a new, your pivot table on the new sheet or on the existing worksheet.
Okay.
So I will select new worksheet. I do not want to mix it with my data, but I want to keep the location separate from where the data is, correct?
Yes.
This option, this particular option, will seal it.
Okay.
I'll say okay.
Yes.
Can you mute yourself for some time? Yeah, okay. Okay, Sumitra. Now the screen is in front of you, which is showing you the pivot table fields, correct? Now, the first is the structure of a pivot table. What you see is the structure of a pivot table, which is by default like this. That means filter columns and then rows values. But if you desire to change the structure, how will you come here? You can see this icon of settings. You come here and you can change the structure, how you want to view it. By default, the structure is always this one. But if you want to change the view, you can make it like this also. And these are the options which are there with you. After that, you get the extra tabs on the pane also, which is, I'll show you, the extra two tabs after Power Pivot, which is Pivot Table Analyze and Design, which tells you that the selected data is a pivot table. How you got a new tab for table design, which was telling you, which was hinting you that it is a table. Now, this particular tab will hint that it is a pivot table. which have two options, pivot table, analyze and design. Now, first of all, let's make a simple pivot table. Now, before we begin, now what to include in rows, columns, values, and filters? Every pivot table is fed by rows, columns, and values. I'm repeating again, every pivot table is fed by rows, columns, and values. Now, what should come in the rows, what should come in the columns, and what should come in the values? Now, as the name suggests, I show you, there's a summation sign before the values, if you can all see. This particular sign I'm talking about, which is a summation sign like this. This summation sign comes for the numerical values. That means the values which can be aggregated, or these are the mathematical values which can be used in the mathematical calculations such as count, sum, min, max, average, percentage. So those sort of values we always drag in the values section. And the rows will always hold the information you are looking out for. Now let me ask you a simple question. Based on that question, you all will guide me that what should come in the rows, what should come in the columns, and what should be there in the values. Okay? Now the simple question is, show me, I want to see category-wise sales. Or in simple terms, I want revenue by category. Yes, Sumit, so unmute yourself and help me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I want revenue by category or category-wise sales. Now, you tell me, how many categories do we have in our data? Let's go.
6.
How many categories do we have? We have only 2 categories.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Now, I want to summarize my data that what sales has been given by beverages and what sales has been given by snacks. How would you do that from a pivot table?
I'm not getting that.
How many categories do we have beverages?
Yes, 2.
And I have snacks, correct?
Yes.
Now I have the sales also. Can you see this column which is revenue?
Yes.
But I want a summarized sale. That means the total sales done by category beverages and the total sales done by snacks. Correct?
Yes.
How will I get it from a pivot table? Anybody who can answer this question or help me out answering this question? Anyone? We have 7 participants with us. Anyone who can help me out with this question, that what I should drag in rows, what should I drag in columns, and what should I drag in values?
Hello, ma'am. Can I try?
Yeah, who's this with me?
Vaibhav.
Yes, Weber. Okay.
Uh, First of all, we will select product, main category, product, year, month.
From where? Should I drag it into rows, columns, or values?
Okay, so product main categories will be in the column,
Will be in the column, okay.
and year and month will be in the row.
But I want to see the total sales in all years and all months.
Okay, so same I will copy in the value.
What you will copy?
Revenue.
Perfect.
I will get the total revenue, I think so.
Okay. You have the same figures with you, okay? Let's see on the paper, how will you write it? Will you write it the same way, or you'll come here and in front of beverages, you'll write 4, 3, 5, 2, 9?
No.
And in front of snacks, you'll write 4, 3, 1, 3, 5. True or false? What way you like? You like this way or you like this way? Which is more readable?
Yes.
This one, the blue part, or the one which I have written?
That you have written. It
Correct.
will be easy to understand.
It will be easy to understand. So pivot table, we always keep in the length form, like we keep it like this.
Okay.
We try to keep it vertical instead of keeping it horizontal. Why? Because it is more readable.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you tell me where you will correct your pivot table. Instead of putting the category in the columns, you will put them.
Say row. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Very good, very good. I'm impressed. Vaibhav. Okay, Sumit sir. Now you get the answer.
Yes.
Okay. Our question was very simple that I wanted to see category wise revenue. Correct? Now I changed the question. I want to see revenue by category and year. That means each year I want to see separately. That beverages in that particular year has done how much sale. What will you do? You'll create another pivot table, correct?
Yes.
How you make another pivot table? You'll go to data again, you will select and you will make another pivot table one way.
Yes.
Correct? Another way is you go to this pivot table, you control A, that means select a complete table, control C and paste it. Okay?
Okay.
Now, what is the problem here, web observer? Now, suppose later, what I do, suppose later I go to this pivot table, okay?
Okay.
I add something to the rows,
Mhm.
correct? Now, how many empty rows I have? From 7 to 14, correct?
Yes.
Because at 15th row, I have another pivot table.
Yes.
So there's a chance that my two should collapse.
Yes, sure. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So suppose I come here and I add months to my first pivot table. Can you see what message I'm getting?
Yes, we could not complete that.
Yeah. Why? Because the pivot table is overwriting the other pivot table, correct?
Yes, yes.
That means whenever you're copying a pivot table and you're pasting it on the existing worksheet, it is very important to take care for the space of the existing pivot table. That means you will control A, control X, and you will paste it somewhere.
Okay. So basically we have to check the range of our previous table.
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Or make the pivot tables on the new sheets.
Okay. Okay.
But if
Got
you're sure about your questions that this is going to be your answer, no matter whatever the time is, then you can make the pivot tables on the same sheet, on the existing sheets.
Mhm.
Now if
Got
I'll
it.
try, now if I'll try the same thing and I'll try and drag the years, it will work. Now I wanted this question only. I wanted the category wise revenue, but I wanted to see the years also.
Okay.
Now here you could make the years into the columns also.
Horizontal wise. Yeah.
Correct? Now why? Because it is more readable. Instead of dragging the years into the rows, we can drag it to the columns. They both are in the readable form.
Okay.
Now, what else are the options which we can play with? Let's select a pivot table and go to the first option which we have is the pivot table analyze. Correct?
Yes.
Now, the first thing is the pivot table name. Why it is important to name a pivot table?
Okay.
Suppose I create 20 pivot tables. He will keep on naming those pivot tables as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means at a certain point of time, when you are referring a particular table, you will get confused at which pivot table you are looking out for. So it's a good practice to always rename a pivot table. So coming here, what this pivot table is giving me, web observer. This pivot table is giving me revenue by category and year, correct?
Yes.
So I'll name it by revenue by category and
Yeah. Okay.
correct? Or you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
make it pivot table 1 or 2 according to your need, but the name should reflect what message or what information that particular pivot table is giving.
Got it, ma'am. Yeah.
Correct? Now here one problem. Can you see a problem in a pivot table is the grand total.
Yes. Yes.
I do not want to show the grand total. Correct?
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll go to design, sir.
Okay.
Okay, now we have four options on the left. These four. These
Ah.
are related to what you want to view in your pivot table. Let's start from the first one, which is the subtotals.
Okay.
Now, if you do not want to show the subtotals, I'll show you how he shows the subtotal. Can you read this particular figure?
Yes, year wise.
No, this one.
Okay.
What is this?
This
It
is
is a
a
subtotal.
categorization. Yeah.
It is a subtotal. Why? Beverages has made a subtotal of 43,529 for those 2 years. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Suppose I do not want to show it. I'll say do not show. Do you know? Do you get
Okay.
it? He is hiding only those two values, which were the subtotals. If you want to see them, you can show
Mhm.
or you can hide. You can show also. After that, there's an option called grand total. Now, where is the grand total? Grand total is the last row, correct?
Yes.
This particular. You want to show it or you doesn't want to show it, that's up to you. So grand total, I want to keep them on for the rows or for the columns. Suppose I off for rows and columns.
Okay.
Okay. And similarly, you can turn them on also.
Mhm.
Now I am dragging here into the columns again. Now I do not want this grand total. Correct? But I want this one.
So we will hide the column.
No, this is a column.
Yes.
Column I want,
Okay.
but I do not want rows. That means the red ones. These are rows, no?
Yes.
So what you'll do, you'll come to the grand totals. You'll say on for rows only or on for columns. On for columns only and hide.
Okay. Got it.
Got it?
Yes.
Now suppose I drag the year into my rows only.
Mhm.
I want extra column for these two values, which are going to be years. I do not want to come in below beverages, but I want him to go to another column.
Okay.
So that is your layout.
Uh-huh.
What you'll show in tabular form.
Okay.
So the values which were below the labels, they will be added into a new column. And one view is the outline, this, where the labels will not be repeated. Okay?
Yes.
And blank rows is insert blank row after each item. Now, first item is the beverages. The second is the snacks. If you want to insert a blank row between them, it will insert.
Mhm.
Okay? Row headers, column headers, banded rows, that means the colored alternate rows. The banded column means alternated banded columns.
Okay.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am. Got it. So all options we can use
Yeah, you
as
can
per
do.
our requirement.
Yes, we are for the view.
Yes.
Next is the color options. You have the multiple color options. So these are all the color options which you can use. Correct? See, these are the color options.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now I'm writing a simple question and all of you have to make a pivot table for that information and you have to share a screenshot. A very simple, I'm asking. I want to see the total orders for each category. So the total orders for each category. A quick yes in the chat box when you are done, or if you have any doubt regarding the question, we'll do it together. No problem. Yes, Vaibhav sir, done. Sumit sir, anybody, any doubt? Share the screenshots if you're done. Yes, Vaibhav sir.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I
You've
think
done?
I'm done with it. Yeah. Is this
Okay,
correct?
fine. Just, so your, according to you, the beverages has a total order of 16,552. Okay.
Yes.
Anybody else who is done? Share your screenshot. Yes, Sonali ma'am, Sanjana ma'am, were quite active participants. Sumit sir, Sachin sir, Sanjana ma'am, you are there with us? Sonali ma'am, Sumit sir has shared. Okay. Sumit sir answer is 43,000. So you're trying to say that total sales and quantity is same. You get the
Yes.
number. Okay. Sumit sir is saying 43,589.
Is
Okay.
this right?
Okay, let's see. What you did, you created a new pivot table from sheet, or you copy the previous pivot table and you make the changes in that.
I made a new pivot table.
Okay, and on the new sheet or on the existing sheet?
New sheet, ma'am.
Perfect.
It is automatically taken me into
Perfect.
new
Your
sheet.
way of creation is absolutely correct, but your calculations are wrong. I'll tell you where you are wrong.
Okay. Okay.
You copy, okay, control V. I'm making the changes in it. Now, what your question is? You want to see that how many orders beverages get and how many orders snacks get, correct? That means there is no role of year here. I'll remove the year from here. Now, instead of revenue, what I'm interested in, the quantity I get. So I'll drag the quantity. Because quantity is telling me that what is the number that you're getting the order at. Suppose it's 5. So if you go to your beverages data and see, can you see the quantity? In the first row, it is getting 247, then 234. And that is the total quantity which you get for beverages is on 16,552.
Okay.
Only the problem was you did sum of revenue. You have to pay attention to this particular name, sum of quantity. So my pivot table is doing what? He's going to the data, sir. Okay. He is filtering the data based on the beverages. He is adding the quantity, and at the end, he is giving me that quantity.
Okay. 33,469 total.
16th, it's a total by beverages and snacks. If you look only on beverages, it is 16,552. So, Vaibhav, so your answer was correct. Sumit, sir, answer was wrong, no?
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Your answer was absolutely correct. It's 16,552. Correct? If I drag the years, I will get the year-wise orders. So I'll drag the year and I'll drag it into my rows, which is 8,545 for 2015 beverages, and for 2016, I get the order as 8,007. Correct? Now, next thing is comes as, can we drag the same field multiple times in values? Suppose one time I want to see quantity. One time I want to see minimum of quantity, one time I want to see the maximum of quantity. That means I'm interested in that year 2015, what is that maximum quantity which has been ordered? That means I'm again interested in the column quantity, but if you see the quantity is already there in the values section. So now I'll drag it one more time, the quantity, sorry. Can you see? You can add it n number of times, but this time I'm not interested in sum, but I'm interested in minimum, correct? So what I'll do is I'll right click, I'll select this drop down, I'll go to value field settings. In the value field settings, I will say summarize values by max. I'll say okay. So in 2015, the maximum quantity was 285. In 2016, the maximum quantity was 288. And if I'm interested in the minimum quantity also, what I'll do, I'll drag the quantity again in the values. And this time I'll again select value field settings and I will select the minimum and I'll say okay. What was the minimum quantity ordered by? Now, if I'm interested in that particular product which has been
Ma'am, sorry for disturbing you in between. Please
No.
repeat this minimum quantity.
Yeah, I will repeat that for you. I will take it out. I will take it out. Now, if you see Webhub, the quantity is already there in the values. What people get confused with that if quantity is there already in the values, they cannot drag it again. But that's not the case. You can drag it n number of times. Dragging it again. Now, can you see always he is adding some. That means there's one setting which is default setting. That means every time when you are going to drag a numerical field in value section, you are going to get aggregator as sum. If you want to change the aggregator, you have to change your settings. How? Click on the drop down. You will get an option value field settings. In the value field setting, read this line. Choose the type of calculation that you want to use to summarize data from the field. I do not want to sum the quantity, but I want to find the maximum of quantity. You can make the maximum quantity order. I changed the name of the field also to maximum quantity ordered. Okay. Similarly, when you're looking out for minimum, you drag the quantity again, web observer. This time again, you'll go to value field settings and you will change it to minimum. And I'll change the name to minimum quantity order. I'll say okay. Any doubt till here? Anyone, any doubt?
Got it, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now the next thing comes is how to format the values. Now right click, you will get a number format. Suppose you want to put 1,000 separator. So come here and use 1,000 separator and you will get a comma in your value. And how many decimal places you want to keep? If you want to keep the 0 decimal places, you keep it as 0 and you press OK. This is how you format your pivot table. Clear? Any doubt so far creating a simple pivot table? Anyone in the chat box, if you have any doubt, you can ask the question in the chat box. If you hesitate to unmute and ask the question, please ask it in the chat box. Good to go? Then I'm asking another question. You have to make and you have to give me month revenue by month. All of you, do share a screenshot. Once you are done, you have to give me revenue by month. This is your question. You have to give me revenue by month. I'm giving you 5 minutes. Just give me a screenshot once you are done. Revenue by month. Yes, revenue by month. I'm waiting for screenshot from all of you. We are 8 participants are there with me. I have not received even a single screenshot. Guys, I'm waiting. You have to find a simple pivot table which will show revenue or the total sales breaking by months. Web of Soul is down. Okay, Web of Soul, hide the grand total. I do not want to see the grand total. That means in the column it should be there, but in the rows it should not be there.
Yes, ma'am. I'm doing it. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
So we need a grand total in a row or column?
I want in a column, but not in a row. That means this particular column of grand total should not be there. Yes, I'm waiting from Sumit sir also, screenshot.
Yes, ma'am, I'm doing.
Yeah, Sumit sir, do share your screenshot. Sonali ma'am, I'm waiting for your screenshot. Sanjana ma'am, Sachin sir, user 415486. I'm waiting for the screenshot, guys. How would I know whether you're understanding or not? Please do share screenshots and do not hesitate to ask the questions. I'm there. If you hesitate, do write the questions in the chat box. I'll answer your questions. But please share the screenshot. Yeah. Okay, Sumit sir has shared. Okay, beverages. Perfect. Perfect. Sumit sir.
Thank you.
Who else?
Oh,
Who else is there? 1 minute. Web of Sir, perfect. Perfect it is. Yes, Sonali ma'am. Are you there with us? Sachin sir. Sanjana ma'am. They're not there with us. Okay, let's move ahead then. So revenue by month. Now this time I'm exploring one another option of adding a pivot table. I'm going to beverage data again. I'll select the table design. I'll say summarize with pivot table. Now this time I'm not going to a new worksheet. I'm going to existing worksheet. I'm selecting the option called existing worksheet. By the time I'm selecting this option, what I'm getting is I have to give him location where to add. So I'll go to my sheet 6 where I have all the pivot tables. I'll go to that sheet and I'll add a location on that sheet. Suppose I say this particular. So on sheet 6, I'm giving a cell E44. I'll say okay. Can you see I get a new pivot table on that particular location? Correct? Here, what I have to make, I have to make a revenue by month. So I dragged my month in my rows and I drag my revenue in my value. Correct? Now you wanted to break it into beverages and snacks, so you added into the columns. Or you could have done like this. So Vaibhav sir did this way, or I think Sumit sir did this way, and you did that way. So both the ways are correct. It is how it is more readable to you. How you find it easy to read, you will keep the pivot table that way. Correct? Now exploring the fourth field, which is the filter section. Now what comes in the filter section? It is very important. Now suppose I have my rows as main category and my month. Now I do not want to see snacks. I want to see only beverages. Or I want to see a particular month, suppose January, February, and March. What I'll do is I'll drag the months into filters, but you see what is the change now you will observe. The time I drag a month in my filters, what happens? I had months in rows also, but the time I added month in filters, they are automatically removed from rows section. This is the problem with the filter. That means the field which you are keeping in the filter section, you cannot keep in your rows or anywhere else. Suppose I drag it again. Now the time again I add month in the filters, you will see that from the rows, it will be automatically removed. Now from here, you can select multiple and you will select not all you're looking out for January, February, and March. So it is giving me the summarized sales of 3 months. That means January, February, and March. If you want to compare these values with your quarter, you can compare it by dragging months and quarters. Now, suppose I do not want a view like this. I wanted to see the month names also. What will I do? Then if this is not the correct way, then why filters are there? What the filter section is used for? Okay, now let me first explain how you will keep filters with their names in the pivot table. I'll remove months from here. I'll remove first all the filters. Okay, and I will remove months from here and I keep it here. Now, what I want the view as, if I select January, February, March, that view should be there. That means what I'm trying to say is, if I want January, February, March, I should see only this much data. If I want January, February, March, I should see this much data. How can I do that? So instead of putting the months in the filters, you will use another option called slicer. What are slicers? Slicers are the external filters. Slicer is called the internal filter, where you will get an option called slicer. In the tab, there's an option called pivot table analyze, and in the ribbon, you have an option called insert slicer. Now, insert slicer will show you all the fields which are there, which are feeding your pivot table. And out of those fields, which field you are looking out for, you will select that particular field, which is month in our case. I'll say okay. Now I will come here and I'll select multiple items, January, February, and March. Sorry, clear the filters. I want January. I'll press Shift, February, and March. January, February, and March. Can you see? Those 3 months which you are selecting from your external filter are only added into your pivot table. You will clear it again. What is the way of selecting is hit the first selection, hold the control key or the shift key. Shift will add the continuous values and the control will add non-continuous values. And you will press. And to remove the filter, you will just click on this particular symbol. Again, you will select the field, you will hit the shift key, and you will select multiple filters you want to see. So slicer serves the same purpose as a filter, but the only difference is whatever you're selecting in the slicer will be given in the view in your pivot table, whereas whatever you add into the filter is getting removed from your pivot table. That means that is not coming in the view. Get it, Web sir? The slicer and the filter part?
Yes, ma'am. I actually, can you please, ma'am, repeat that one? How to create duplicate one? I was skipped. Yeah.
Yeah, how to skip that part, no? Okay.
Yeah.
You close it. I'll remove this slicer. First of all, I'll clear. I'll remove this, okay?
Okay.
Now, suppose I had this pivot table with me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the time I add a month in my filters, see, when I'm adding filters, month in my filters, you will see that from rows, the month will be automatically removed,
Yes.
correct? Now,
Yes.
this is not what I wanted. Why? Because if I select particular month, suppose I deselect all, but I'm selecting, I'm selecting January, February, and March.
Okay.
That means the sales should only be of January, February, and March.
Yes.
He's showing me that sales, correct?
Okay. Yes.
But I wanted to see the months also in the view,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
correct? Which is I'm not getting. So what I'll do is Control A, Control C, I'll put Control V, correct?
Okay. Yeah.
I'll go to pivot, sorry. I'll remove, I'll delete. Okay, I'll close the filter. Okay, and I'll Control A, Control C. I'm making another pivot table.
Okay.
Okay. Why it is not showing the, Achha, because filters are there. Okay, okay. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll copy this one, Control A, Control C, and I'll paste it down. Okay. Now what I'm doing is in one I have filter, in other I will add a slicer to show you what is the difference between these two.
Okay.
This is the pivot table which has filters, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this is the one which doesn't have filters, correct?
Yes.
I'll make the same. What I'm adding is I have my category wise sales. In the same, I will add the same, the category wise sales. Okay.
Okay.
And I will remove. Now I want to filter it on the month, correct?
Yes.
Now this is what we have. Now what I'll do in this pivot table, I'm not adding month to the filters, but I'm adding the slicer.
Okay.
I'll go to pivot table analyze. I'll insert a slicer, which is of month, correct?
Yes.
I'll say okay.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Now I will select January. I will select February. I'll select March.
Okay.
Correct? Now,
Yes.
can you see January, February, March, which has been selected from a filter, is coming in the view in pivot table?
Yes. Yes.
Whereas if you see slicer, you can't see those months. If I select January, February, and March, suppose
Mm-hmm.
January, February, and March, okay, you get 11,586. Correct?
Yes.
But you can't view that month names, which is January, February, and March. Are you getting my answer? If you come here and you add these three values, sum, which is January, February, and March,
Mm-hmm.
which is 4371 of beverages.
Yes.
Sorry, it is sum of quantity and that is revenue. That is why the figures are coming incorrect.
It is. Yeah. It's all right.
Now can you see they are coming?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll
Mm-hmm.
select January, I'll select February and March. Can you see now 11,586 and up also it's 11,508. Now the only difference is there you can't see January, February and March.
Yes. Yes.
But
I understand.
now you can see January, February and March.
Okay.
Now, if slicer is the option, then why filters are there? One question.
Mhm.
Okay, so filters, the main purpose of filters in pivot table is to generate the report filter pages. Okay, I'll show you what are the report filter pages. Now coming to this particular filter wala pivot table where I have the month in the filter. Correct, Vaibhav sir?
Yes.
I have month in the filter. What you'll do, you'll go to pivot table analyze. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
Now which months I selected, sir? January, February and March. In my filters, what I've selected, January, February and March. I'll go to this particular option. I'll say show report filter pages.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So how many filters I've selected? January, February, March.
March.
So he should make how many pages? January, February and March.
March.
I'll hit it. What he's
Okay.
showing? Show
Months.
all report filter pages of month. I'll say okay.
Okay. Yes. I see.
Down.
Jan, Feb, March. Yeah. 3 new sheets has been created.
This is the main purpose of your filters, and when you choose between filters and slicers.
Okay.
So your slicers act as your external filters, which are coming from out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But filters are inside your pivot table. They are going to alter your pivot table.
Okay. Got
Got
it.
it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'll go back to my pivot table sheet. Now you all got difference between the slicers and the filters. Now, one more important thing is, if you see how many pivot tables I've created so far. This is pivot table 1, suppose. This is second. This is my third. My fourth pivot table, correct? I have 4 pivot tables on my sheet, correct, sir? Now, what definition I use for slicer? I said slicers are the external filters, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if I'm selecting January, February, and March, I want them to be, it should filter all the pivot tables on the sheet. What I want, if I select any particular month, I want all my pivot tables to get filtered.
Okay.
What I'll do is, for that, you have to maintain the connection. What you are maintaining a connection between a slicer and a pivot table. For that, you have an option when you right click. One option is when you right click, you have an option called report connection. When you right click, you have an option called report connection. Correct? Other is when you come here, you go to slicer, you have report connections in the ribbon also. This particular option. So both ways you can use this option. Now let's see how to use this option. I'll come here, I'll right click and I'll say report connections. Do you remember I told you that whenever you're creating a pivot table, you should always rename it, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Why? Because I told you that later on when you will refer a particular pivot table, you will get confused at which table holds which value, correct? Or what table has what results.
Yes. Yes.
Now I have to attach this particular slicer with the pivot tables, correct?
Yes.
Now pivot table 5 is this pivot table which is just next to this slicer, or selecting which pivot table I created a slicer. Are you getting what I'm trying to tell?
Oh, no, ma'am. Actually, I confused.
Yeah. So pivot table is the one which I selected and hit insert slicer.
Okay.
That means when I was working with pivot table 5, that time only I created a slicer. That's why he built up a connection with pivot table 5 only.
Okay.
That means right now only which connection is there? Only only this particular connection is there. They both are connected. Rest nothing is connected to this slicer, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Now, do you remember our first pivot table which we created, which was revenue by category and year?
Yeah.
Now my slicer is connected with 2 pivot tables. The first is the pivot table 5, which is just next to the slicer, and one which is at the top, which we created the first
First
pivot
one,
table.
yeah.
Okay, I'll say okay. Now I select January.
Uh-huh.
My pivot table got changed, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And my pivot table, this one will get changed.
Okay,
This
okay.
one is- Now January is 2074, he's showing, correct? I'll come down. I'll bring it up. Control X. I'll bring it up. Correct? I'll select February. Can you see it is changing?
Yes, yes.
Why? Because there's a connection between this pivot table and this pivot table.
And this- yeah.
The time I'll break the connection, suppose I come here and I report connection and I say you break the connection. I'll say break the connection. Okay. Now you change it. Does
Okay,
it
so
change? No.
that will connect only the pivot table 5, I think.
5, which is the last
Yes,
pivot table.
but okay.
Correct? Now coming here, you can make the connection with rest everything.
Mhm.
Now, no matter what is the name, but I want to create the pivot table. Not on the February, January, March, but all on this particular sheet,
Okay.
which is sheet number 4, I think. Sheet number 6. Okay. Sheet 6. Correct? Now, my slicer is active on all the pivot tables I created on this particular sheet. I'll say okay. Now select March, everything will get changed. Can you see down also it's changing?
Yes.
See, August, it's getting changed. September, this particular part is also changing. See. Correct? This is how you can stop the filter. You get it till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's practice something with slicer filters. Then we'll move ahead. Okay, let me give you a simple question. What is the time? It's 4:04. Okay, I'll give you one simple question. Do share the screenshot in the chat box. So the question this time is you have to give me top 5 products. Top 5, sorry. Top 5 products by sales for selected category. This is your question. Do not pay attention on top 5. First of all, you find the products, correct? By sales for selected category. Find the products, the sales for products for selected category. That means in your pivot table, you will show the name of the products. And in one column, you will show their sales. And in the slicer, you will have a category. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? You will have products, you will have sales in the pivot table. This will be your pivot table. And this is going to be your slicer. Any doubt, Vaibhav, sir?
No, ma'am, I'm trying. Let's see.
Okay, okay, try, it's okay. I want each and everybody or every one of you to try and please do share the screenshot once you are done. I request all of you to try. Pivot tables are the most important analysis tool of spreadsheet program. It is one of the important feature of Excel. I don't want you to miss this particular feature of Excel. So please do try on your sheet. It's very easy. Do try and share the screenshot. I request Sonali ma'am, Sanjana ma'am, if you are there with us, please try pivot tables. Vaibhav sir, Sumit sir, I'll wait for your screenshots and then I'll go ahead. Yes, Vaibhav sir, Sumit sir, done. Um, So you have selected snacks and he is giving you chips, foods, nuts and sandwiches. Perfect. Perfect. So it is not okay. Only top part is missing. Rest everything is correct. Good to go. Perfect. Yes, Vaibhav sir. Now it's your turn. Share your screenshot and we'll go ahead then. Yes, Vaibhav sir. Let's do together. Vaibhav sir. You're there with us, Vaibhav sir?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I got a call.
Okay, let's,
Just share the screen. Please let me
okay.
know, am I right or not?
Okay. It's okay, perfectly fine. So beverages is, but why he is not showing me that apple juice, Coke, orange juice are beverages? If I want to see this information in the pivot table, what you'll do?
Sorry, ma'am.
Now, you've selected beverages from slicer, correct?
Yes.
But in the pivot table, if I can see, there's no beverages
Okay.
in here, this particular part.
Uh-huh.
How will you add it? Tell me. That means I want to see beverages.
So I
Then
will add means product name in row in filter
perfect.
column. Filter
Oh, no, not in filter. Filter to will
in row.
hide that. No, in the row column.
Okay. Okay.
When you'll add a row, then meets beverages, then down will come apple, Coke, orange juice. And
Yes. Okay, ma'am. Got it.
correct, no?
Yes.
Okay, good to go. So we've learned about filters, we've learned about slicer. Let's move little ahead. I'll create a calculated field this time, or then we'll go and see the groups and the bins so that we can create a dashboard with our pivot tables. Okay, let's move ahead and do something with the dates this time. Okay. Now, I don't have a date in my data. It's okay. Now let's say top 5. What I put a constraint on top 5 by sales for each category, correct? Let's make a pivot table. I'll copy this pivot table. Okay. Now I will say, what I'll say is I want to see month. I don't want. Okay. Now I want to see the products. So I will drag the products in my rows. Now I'm not interested in all the products, but I'm interested only in the top. Correct? And I want to filter for each. So what I'll do is in the slicer, I'll come and insert a slicer, going to pivot table analyze. I will say insert slicer for the product. I'll say, okay. No, sorry, category. I'll say go and insert slicer for the category. What I'll do is I will come here and I'll value filter. I have value filter where I have top 10. Now, what is I am interested in only top 5, though there are only 4 products in snacks, so I'll go for top 2. Let's say I'm interested in top 2 products, items by sum of revenue. I'll say okay. Correct? Now I will select only beverages. Did not work. Value filters. I'll say top 10, but this time I'll say top 2. Okay. Now I'll say cancel. Value filters, top 2 by revenue. I'll say okay. No, he's not giving by. Let's try it again. Value filter. I'll say top 10. I'll say top 2. I'll say okay. Why is not giving? 2 products. I'll say top. Yeah, I'll say value filter top 2. Yeah, now he's giving. So what we were doing, we were selecting the row labels. Instead, what we are interested in 2 products. That means you have to select product. I'll do it again one more time with you. You also try with me. What I did is, I'll clear all filters. Okay. And I will say, okay. Now what will you do? Select right click and you will say filter and you will go to top 10 and you will say instead of 10, I'm interested in 2 top items. I'll say okay. Now, if you're interested in beverages, it will show only beverages. If you're interested in snacks, it will show only snacks. But if you're interested in suppose something else, suppose top months, then you will select the month. Let's try it with months also. I'm closing this filter. I'm clear filter from the product, correct? Now let's go to months. Let's try it with the month. I'll select the month. I'll right click. I'll go to filter. I'll say top 10. This time I'm interested in top 5. By sum of revenue, I'll say okay. That means the top 5 months was January, February, March, June, and August for beverages, January, February, March, June, and August for snacks too. This is how you can conclude some kind of results or some sort of results using filters on pivot tables. Are you clear with it, Vaibhav sir and Sumit sir? How
Yes,
to
ma'am.
apply? Okay. So when I was applying the value filters, there were opposite text filters also. Now coming here, if I try and apply filters on it, suppose come here and I say filters on it. Come here and I say some filters on it. Can you see the label filters and the value filters? Now what label filters will do and what value filters will do? The value filters will always apply filters on the what field is there in the values. This for this pivot table, the field in values is revenue. That means this value filter, if I select, will work on revenue. Can you see? Correct? Now, if I'm interested in that particular column, suppose I want to see only the products which has given me sales more than 11,000, let's say, is greater than 11,000. 11,000. That means, can I say the more than 11,000 is this product, and that product? And here it is fruits, nuts, and sandwiches. Correct? I'll say okay. That means the value filter will always be applied on the field in your value section, whereas the label filters will always be applied on the fields which are there in the rows or on the column section. I'll remove the filters. Let's say I will clear the filters from product. Okay. Now I come here and I select, I apply again filters, but this time I'm going for label filters. Now, can you see what he is exactly saying? show items for which the label is, can you see? That means it will work on the apple juice, Coke, orange juice, and sparkling water. Can you see what name he is giving? That label filter will act on the product. Correct? That means you can go for contains also. That means you are only interested in the product. So that start with A. You can see. Can you see? So this is what you can do with your label filters and your any doubt in your filters and the top categories, how to find the label, how to apply label filters, value filters.
No, ma'am. All clear.
Okay. Okay. Now the next part is very important, is grouping and binning of your pivot table. How to create a group and bin in your pivot table. One option is you can use the automated groups and bins, which is done by the Excel only, which is a feature of pivot table. One is the creating a manual groups. Now, what do you mean by manual groups? I'll take one more pivot table for this to explain. Otherwise, I'll go to sample superstore. I'll give you question from that data because that is a big data set. So you will understand more on that data. Let's try the groups first on this data. Then I'll give you a question in the sample superstore to create a group. I'm creating one more pivot table. Control, and I'm copying it down. Okay. This time I'm adding, suppose, product. Okay. Now, what my question is, suppose our quarter one is January, February, and March, correct? But our fiscal quarter is March, April, May, and June, I think, starts, no? Correct. Our fiscal quarter starts from March, April, and May. True or false?
Ma'am, fiscal quarter starts from April, May, June.
April, May, June. January, February, March is the first quarter accordingly, but the
Yeah.
fiscal is April, May, and June. Okay. Now, suppose I want to create a group. How? I want to club April, May, and June as quarter one. If I drag the quarters in, I'll try month, I'll drop months out of it, but I'll drag quarters in it. Now I'll add months in it. If you see, the quarter one is January, February, March, which is not in our case. I want quarter one to be April, May, and June, correct? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? By default, in quarter one, he's including January, February, and March. But how we want to create a group is we want to create April, May, and June as the first quarter, correct? So that means with my months, I want to create a manual group. What I'll do is I'll select April, I'll select May, and I'll select June, and I'll say group. I'll say as only the months. I'll say okay. And what I'll do is I'll select April, Shift, May, and June. I'll right click, I'll say group. Okay. Starting at this particular date, which is 1/1/2015 to this and months, I'll say okay. Okay, and I will rename. Why he's not giving me option to rename it? Suppose I say I take a product and I take a revenue. Okay, I want to create first three and I want to group them. Okay, now rename this group. Suppose this is my average group. Okay, I'm creating a custom group. Now suppose fruits, nuts, and orange juice, I'm selecting again. Okay, and I right click and again I'll say group. Okay, This time what I'm saying is, this is my medium group. Let's say anything called medium group. Okay. The last is other. Let's say rename it to other. Okay. I'll say come here. Now, what I want to see is now a new group has been created, average group, medium group, and other group, correct? And it can you see in the rows, it has been added as product 2. That means an extra field has been added in the data as product 2. That means next time when I'm adding a product 2, I will get average group, medium group, and other. I'll show you. Now let's say I'm removing this product. Can you see, based on the groups made by us, that means the customized groups, I want to see the values that which employees has given me the average sales, which has given me the medium sales, or which has given me the low sales. You can make your own customized group, which is you have created manually. Now let's try something which is automatically created by Excel, which is in the form of numerical value. I'm taking one more example where we will create automated groups. So I'll come here. Okay, I will take the numerical figure in the row section. First time I'm taking the numerical value in the row section. So I'm dragging the value. Now, what my question is, I want to see that how many products have given me sale between 100 to 1000. Let's see. My question is, I'm writing the question. I want to see how many products have given sales in selected range. Selected range can be 0 to 1000. It can be 1000 to 3000. So I want to make something like this. But here it is giving me as 100, 109. I don't want to see like this. I want to see it like a range. What I'll do, I'll select that particular field. I go to pivot table, analyze, and I will say group selection. This is the automatic groups where I can define where I want to start from, where I want to end, and what should be my size of the bin. Now it is starting from 100, it is ending at 694. Suppose I add a size of 50. That means the first bin could be 100 to 150. Next would be 150 to 200, and I say okay. You get it? How you create automated groups. Now, the first time you added, now if you see that there is no extra field added to your data, which was added earlier in case of when you worked with the product names. Here you created average group, medium group, and other group, and it is being added to your data as product 2. But this time, no extra field has been added. That means the results have been appended to the same field which was there in your data. Now, Vaibhav sir, I want you to unmute yourself. I'll ask one simple question. Yes, Sumit sir, or Vaibhav sir, any one of you. Yes, sir, you there with me?
Hello.
Yes, sir. You there with me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one simple question, Vaibhav sir. If 100 is a numerical figure, correct?
Yes.
Is 100-200 is also a numerical figure?
No.
It is what? It is text, correct? Why? Because dash is involved.
Yes.
How you started with a figure like 100, but you created something like 100-149, correct?
Yes.
That means from the figure, you made something called text.
Okay.
Earlier, when you was dragging your revenue into the fields, that means when you was dragging it in the value section, he was adding some, correct?
Yes.
But this time you have made the revenue like this now because you created bins, correct?
Yes.
Now, next time when you drag your revenue, you will see the change. I'm sure going to see you that change. Suppose I'm making an here, okay? Instead of I'll drop revenue first, I'll put revenue again back. Can you see the change, sir? What he's adding this time?
Count.
Earlier, what he was doing?
Sum.
Why? Because you can count the products, but can you sum the products? If I'll give you Parneet, Sumit, and Weber, can you add all of them? Can you add Parneet, Sumit, and Weber?
No.
Can you add it? No. But you can add only 100, 200, and 300.
Yes.
Now, what is happening is that your revenue has been taken as a text value. So always you have to make sure when you create a bins, next time when you are creating a pivot table, you have to come to value field setting and you have to change the summarize to this. Got the point?
Yes.
Got how to create the groups?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to sample superstore. I'll give you a quick question. After that, we'll see whether you understood how to create a groups or still we have to work on how to create the groups. Okay, now I want you to open the data called sample superstore. Okay. Now, first of all, you have to select the data. You have to make it a table. You have to press enter and make it sample superstore. Rename the table as sample superstore. Yes, sir. After that, summarize with the pivot table on the new sheet. Okay. You have to fetch your subcategories. You have to fetch your subcategories in the row section and your sales in the value section. When you are done till here, let me know, sir. Do it till here. Go to sample superstore, make it a table, summarize it into a pivot table and create a simple pivot table subcategory by sales. Oh, sorry, sales by subcategory. We have 8 participants, out of which only 2 are active with me right now, which is Sumit sir and Vaibhav sir. Rest, everybody, where are they, sir? Vaibhav sir? They're just logged in, but they are not sitting, correct? Vaibhav sir is not there with us. Sumit sir, are you there with us? Okay, Sumit sir is also not there. Then who is there with us in the meeting? Okay, Vaibhav sir is on call. And Sumit sir?
Hello,
Yes, Vaibhav, sir, you're back.
Sumit. I'm
Okay,
Sumit.
okay, Sumit, sir.
Ma'am, till here I'm done. Grand total is also 2,29,000 now.
Okay, now I want that you make a group of stationery products. Can you see
Okay,
subcategories? I want to make a group of stationery products.
group of stationery
Yeah, so in the stationery products, what will come? Accessories,
and binders.
art, binders, copiers, envelopes,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Labels, and one more group, furniture, in which furnishings, chairs, tables,
yes,
okay, and one is other.
yes.
And I want to see who has given me the maximum sales, the stationery product, the furniture products, or the others.
Okay.
It will take 5 to 7 minutes. Take your time and do share the screenshot. By the time Weber sir will also be done with his call. Where are the other members, Sumit sir? They've logged in, but they're not sitting. They're not physically there with us.
I don't know, ma'am.
You all are not from the same organization. You all are from same organization, true?
Yes, but I'm sitting on 6th floor, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Floor wise.
Okay, it's flow wise. But they are not answerable to anyone. They have not attended the meeting.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yuvati.
Ma'am, this stationery furniture, I have to make this.
You have to select it using a control. So you'll select accessories. You'll
Okay.
select a control tab. You will select,
different columns. So
yeah.
stationery,
So
furniture.
yeah, art, and then you will select binders. Then you will select bookcases. You will select copiers. You will select envelopes. You will select fasteners. You'll select labels. You'll select paper. That's it, no?
In stationery.
Yeah. And you will right click and you will select group
One minute.
and you will rename it as stationery.
Okay.
Okay. Similarly, for the furniture, what you have to select? You have to select chair. You will select control then. You will select furnishings. You will select storage. You will select, is there anything else there? Just wait. What else is there? You have to select tables. You have to select, that's it, no? Then right click, group, and you will make it furniture. Correct? And rest, you will say others. You will select control. And you will say group, and you will make it others. Correct? Now, from the pivot table options, you will remove this subcategory. And you will come here and you will say sort largest to smallest. Who has given you the maximum sale? Furniture has given you maximum sales. You can merge these two also. Others. Third group. Can you see? Sort largest to smallest. So furniture has given you maximum sales. After that, stationery has given you, then others have. In furniture, who has given you the maximum sales? You go to subcategory. In furniture, if you come here and sort it by largest to smallest, in furniture, chairs has given you the maximum sales. Got it, or you still have a doubt?
Got it, ma'am.
Okay. Now coming to the calculated field. Okay. Suppose I'm making a very simple chart and making a simple calculation. I will not work on this complex pivot table. I'll take a very simple pivot table by Control A, Control C, and I'll make another pivot table, Control V. Instead of putting the subcategory, I will just put the subcategory. I'll just put the, suppose, segment and the sales. Okay, I have 3 segments and I have the sales. Okay, now I want to add a calculated field, which is the target sales I want to give in that particular region or in that particular segment. What is the target sale I want to give? Is 10% of the sales. How will you add that calculated field? What you'll do, you'll come here, you will take this, you will multiply it with by 10%, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you'll come here and you'll come down. This is how you'll do, correct?
Yes.
But do you have now what was the scenario? I said it's a calculated column, correct? Now the time I select the pivot table, do you see any field which has been added? Suppose I name it as target sale. Correct?
Yes.
Now, if I select the pivot table, do you see target sales anywhere in the data?
No.
Later, if you want to compare it with your sales, with the target sales, can you compare it? No, because it is not existing in your data, correct?
Yes.
This is a calculated column, not a calculated field. I'm repeating again, this is a calculated column which you have just done the same way we add any formula to our data, correct?
Yes.
Instead of writing a calculated column, I was interested in adding a calculated field. How will I do that? You select any pivot table field, you go to pivot table analyze, and you will get an option called calculated field. Okay, you select that option. Now, in that field, what you want to name it as, it is target sales by segment, let's say. Okay, now
Yes.
what is the target sales by segment? You have to first, that means sum of sales has to be multiplied by 10%, correct?
Yes.
So what you will say, sum of sales is to be multiplied by 10%. Correct? I'll say add. I'll say okay. Can you see now a new field has been added?
Yes.
Clear?
Yes.
Now, if I want to see the, is it the target sales by segment which is being shown on the screen? So no, it is just the percentage of sales, correct?
Yes.
When I will add these two values, that means this particular sum of sales and this value, that will become my target sales, correct?
Yes.
That means what I have to do is I come here, calculated field should be sum of sales and sum of target sales, correct?
Yes.
That means it should be sum of my sales plus sum of my target sales. Clear? I'll say add, I'll say okay. Now this is my target sale. This is my target. Can you see?
Yes.
This is my target sales by segment. This is just the percentage, 10% of, it is the 10% of This is how you add the calculated fields in your data using an option calculated field.
Okay.
Got it, sir?
Yes.
Now, how to add automated calculations which are there with you, which doesn't need to be calculated. How to do that? I'm going to a pivot. Again, I'm going to a pivot table, or I can remove these fields from it. Okay. I'm adding the sales again, sir, to a pivot table. This time, I do not want to show the sum of sales, but I'm interested in percentage sales. How will I do that? I'll come to this particular calculation. I'll come here, I'll say show value as percentage of grand total.
So automatically it will come.
Yeah, so there is no need to add this calculation using a calculated field. You can get it automatically. This is percentage sales. Correct? Now, again, I'm adding the sales, but you want to see the average sales. What you'll do, you'll come here, show value as what you, yeah. For that, what you have to do, you do not have to use show value as. What you'll do, you'll go to field settings and you will say average. What is this? This is average sales. Clear?
Yes.
Now, again, I'm adding the sales, but you want to see the difference of the sales from the previous year. Now, here I'll say come here, show value as difference from the previous year. So I'll say difference from what? Difference from what? Base field, yeah, base field should be segment and it should be consumer. I'll say okay. Can you say? There is no field above consumer, so it has kept blank. Corporate minus consumer is, that means this particular figure minus this figure, correct?
Yes.
That means this figure minus this figure.
Right.
Correct? And what is in the home office is this figure minus this figure. No, sorry, the sum of above two. Correct, no?
Yes.
That means this figure minus this figure. Correct, no?
Yes.
So one more thing is that now you doesn't want to show it as a blank, but you want to replace it by a zero. How you do that? You come here and select pivot table options. In the pivot table options, there is an option called how you want to see an empty row cell. I want to show them as a zero. You will press 0 and all the values will be replaced by 0. If they are not the calculated field, only then. If it is a calculated field, it will be kept blank. Got it? Okay. One more thing is there, which is hiding the labels from the pivot table. When we are good to go to create a dashboards, tomorrow we'll work on how to create the dashboards and we will see some of the basic charts in Excel. And from those charts, we'll move on to dashboards from the pivot table. Any doubt from today's session, sir, from the pivot table? Anything? How to
No, ma'am.
bins, how to add the calculations, calculated field, how to change the design. Now, one last thing is there, so which is when you inserted the slicer, there's an option called insert timeline also.
Okay.
Now, this is the last topic, then we are good to end the session. Insert timeline is what? Once I select any pivot table and I select insert timeline. Do you remember when I selected option called insert slicer, what options he gave me? He gave me all the fields which were there in the data, correct?
Yes.
But the time I selected insert timeline, he is just showing me the fields from the data which are related to date. That means if I selected, that means only dates I will get as an option. Or I select order date. Now in the order date, what hierarchy does it maintain? Years he will show, all the months he will show, and all the dates he will show. So this is how you can select. So coming January to March I selected. Can you see it is working now? It is changing the pivot table based on the field. Now from the month,
Automatically, it will reflect if you will
yeah, it
make this
insert,
timeline.
yeah, correct. Timeline is added only if you have a date in your data.
Okay.
Now, I want to show you when you doesn't have a date in your data, what will happen. Now, the earlier data we were working on, I did not show timeline. Why? Because I had no date in my data. I go to beverage data. I'll come to sheet number 6, where we created most of the pivot tables. I come to pivot table analyze and I hit insert timeline. Can you see now he's showing column 1 because I created the groups. See. Let me just show you. On your sheet, it won't show. I'll say come here and I will say table design and convert to range. Yes. Okay, now I'll select this only part. Control T and I'll say okay. And I will say summarize with pivot table. I'll say okay. Okay, I'm creating very simple, which is project wise revenue. Now I'll say insert time. Can you see, read the what he's displaying
We can't create a timeline.
for this report because it does not have any.
Formatted as state.
That means if it doesn't have a date in your data, you cannot create a timeline. You have to have a date if you want to insert a timeline. And
Okay.
timeline will only pick the fields from your data which are dates.
Okay.
Got it, so?
Yes.
So this was it about the pivot tables. We are good to end the session. If you doesn't have any doubt, do let me know if you have any problem, any doubt in the chat box. Any one of you. Sumit sir, Vaibhav sir, you both were there with me. Thank you so much. Rest, nobody was there with us. Yes, Vaibhav sir, you're done with your call. Can we end the session, Sumit sir, if you have no doubt, Vaibhav sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll create dashboard tomorrow and we'll look upon some of the basic charts in Excel. And then we'll see some date functions and
Okay.
the count if, sum if, the if formulas of Excel.
Okay.
Thank you so
Okay.
much for, yeah. All clear. Okay, thank you so much, Sumit sir. Okay, thank you so much, Vaibhav sir. Thank you. All the time you were there with me. Thank you so much. I appreciate your participant. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Bye. Bye. See you
Bye.
tomorrow.